All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Book with Teen Talk Live today. And today I have a very, very special guest who is joining me from the West Coast. And it's none other than teen coach Miss Sharon Judie. Sharon, welcome to Teen Talk Live today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I'm so glad you were able to join us. We were scheduled for an earlier broadcast, but because of technical difficulties, I know we weren't able to connect, but I'm so glad we were able to connect today.
I am as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So Sharon, I want you to tell our viewers, how do you serve the world with your gifts and your talents?
Well, first of all, I am a writer. I have produced several stage plays here in the Los Angeles area. I have transitioned to also writing books, which we'll talk about a little bit today. I have my first book, which has recently been published, Heart to Heart, Encouragement, Advice, and Inspiration for Teen Girls. It's a collaboration book. I've written for a women's magazine. I also have my own blog. And so, like I said, primarily I'm a writer. I teach in my church, work with the youth. I host a teen girls conference every year, and I am just community oriented.
My goodness, it sounds like you're a busy woman. Also the cause of our teens, right?
Always. When you do what you love, it doesn't feel like it's work. It's productive, and it's well worth it.
And I certainly can identify with that. So we are so excited. I'm so excited for you because your first book was just released, 2 weeks ago?
Correct.
All right. So tell us a little bit about what the book is and your inspiration for writing this book.
Well, as I mentioned, I host a teen girls conference every year. The target audience for the conference has typically been young girls who are being raised by a single mother or being raised in a home without a father figure. We have leaders that come in, other teen community leaders that come in and inspire the girls. And a few years ago, we decided to add a component or a track for the single moms or for the caregivers as well, which also went over extremely well. So we've tackled topics such as bullying and financing and empowering the girls to live their best lives and live without excuses, whether they have a father figure in the home or not. The book is a result of that Teen Girls Conference. It's the Daddy's Girl Empowerment Summit. It's usually held every spring here in California. The inspiration for the book came about after realizing that if men poured into girls, especially girls who don't have a father figure, with some words of encouragement or some advice, any type of inspiration they could think of that they would want to encourage a teen girl by saying to them, I thought it would be a good idea to capture those thoughts and to put them in a book. So I reached out to 30 plus men that I've known over the years. They come from various backgrounds. Many of them are pastors. Some of them are business leaders or businessmen. We have a retired military gentleman. We have current military, law enforcement, just men from various backgrounds who I have known and have come to admire. And I asked them if they would contribute a letter of advice or encouragement, and this is exactly what they did. And so it was a labor of love. Took about 2 years, and the only reason it took that long was because I kept feeling there was more. I had at first had like about 10 or 15 letters, and then I continued to reach out to more men. I went through several editions for the cover. I wasn't really feeling the covers that I was receiving, and finally, when I got a cover that I liked, that was when I was ready to produce. And a lot of times people will tell you, your book's not going to be perfect, just go with it. But I had to feel that what I was giving was something that was from the heart. And so when I found this designer, she actually custom made the cover for me. And I think she did a great job. She captured what my vision was for what the story was about and what the letters are about. So
Wow.
it ended up coming out the way that I really desired for it to. And then I also incorporated some of my own life story. My parents separated and divorced when I was 10 years old. My mom raised my brother and I as a single mother. So I do know the challenges. And I think that's where my heart for teen girls comes from. I know the challenges that I experienced. I sought love in different places. I was a teen mother myself, and so I also have I think a soft spot in my heart for girls who make wrong decisions, because that was the path that I took. I didn't come straight to my destination from the beginning, but I always like to say I took the scenic route.
Right. So that is just wow. That's quite inspirational to me. So when you wrote this book, I know you said it was as a result of the Teen Summit that you have every year, but it also makes me think about how involved was your father in your life after the divorce?
Well, surprisingly, even though my mom and dad divorced, my dad continued to be actively involved in my life. As a matter of fact, he made 81 last week.
Well, happy birthday.
Yes, and he continued to be active in my life, but I was more driven or drawn to being a follower at that time. So I didn't want to be with the bookworms or the girls who were doing the right thing. I was more drawn to those who were getting into trouble, and they weren't making the best decisions. And I never think that anything is by accident. I think that everything is by design. And so I think that if I had not taken that route through life, that I may not have had an understanding or compassion for those who do get off on the wrong track, if I had not gone on that journey myself.
Wow. Somebody said, yes, scenic route. If you are listening to us, just hashtag scenic route, because a lot of us have taken that scenic route to where we are. And partially that's what makes us do what we do in society today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that your dad was still involved in your life, but in working with the girls, you still saw a need for such a book as this.
Absolutely. I know that you are in a different state. Some of your listeners may be as well. The city of Compton here in California is probably well known throughout the country. We've had some rappers come from the city. We've had Dr. Dre and some others, Anthony Anderson, the actor, like I said, many, but we also have the negative side where there was a lot of gang violence, a lot of drugs and activities and so forth. I was raised in Compton, and although I have not lived in that area in a number of years, that is where I hold my teen conference. That's my way of giving back to the community that helped raise me. Although my mom, like I said, was a single mom, my brother could have gone and gotten involved in gangs and other things that were vying for his attention. But he is actually right now working on his doctorate degree in education. And so I think the fact that we were raised by a single mother, and although I took a different journey, the fact that we both survived our surroundings, and things really could have been a lot worse. I scathed out with one child as a teenager, but there were many others around me that had multiple children by the time we had turned the age of 20. So.
Wow. Well, let me take a minute just to welcome our guests who are watching us here, Sharon, and just say hello to people out there. Hello, everybody. You are watching Teen Talk Live today, where we work to transform the lives and minds of teens and those who love them. This is your host, Ann Dillard, and I'm so glad that Onika is here. When Zeta, my cousin, is here. I'm so glad to see Catrice. Catrice, I'm so glad you're here. Kristen, I'm glad you're here. Zena, thanks for joining us. And Daphne joined us. Tarika, thanks for being here. Yvonne, I'm so glad you are here. And Marchette and Cassandra, thank you so much for being here. Lady Weatherspoon, Meriwether, I'm so glad you're here with us too. And today we're talking with teen coach and motivational speaker, Miss Sharon Judie, who just released her first book, Heart to Heart. And on this book, in this book, she's talking to she has a collection of letters from men talking to teen girls. And I'm gonna hope that we get a chance to hear a few of these letters before we close. But right now we're talking to Judie about the scenic route that she took to her destination. So Judie, again, thank you for being here with us. And tell us about some of the stops on your route. I know you talked about being pregnant at 13 and, escaping some of the challenges of being raised by a single parent in Compton. Tell us a couple more things about your route.
Okay. Actually, I was in my senior year of high school. So I was 16, which there are several young girls at 13, 14, 15 years old, and even younger that have found themselves in the same predicament. But I ended up not knowing who I was or what I desired in life. I did know, however, that I did not want a life of depending on assistance, welfare, in order to take care of myself and my child. As a matter of fact, my mom made sure that that was not going to be what defined me. And she allowed me to receive public assistance for approximately 6 months. And after that, she says, now it's time for you to get a job. I went ahead and finished high school, and I have been working ever since. I took a job as a teenager, and I just, as a matter of fact, in August this year, I had 33 years of service with an aerospace company. I was able to retire. I was able to retire from there. And so even though the beginning of my story was not ideal, I still had choices that I was able to make. And that's what I would want to encourage your reader or your listeners is it doesn't matter how your life begins. You have the power and the authority and the right to change the direction that you're going. And that's one of the things I try to instill in teenagers is not to worry about what they're facing, the challenges they're facing. Things are not going to always be the way they are today. And if you can see past this moment, then you can make it.
Right. So we have one of our listeners that she grew up in LA as well. And it's so amazing because what you're sharing with us, I was sharing with a viewer last night or Wednesday night was sharing with us. And the difference in your story is that you had a mom who was present to help you and guide you. And our viewer, we talked earlier this week to Audra Upchurch, and she was saying that her mom was absent. And so that made such a difference in how scenic your journey, your path.
Right. Absolutely. I've actually had an opportunity through you to speak with Audra, and her testimony is amazing to me.
Yes. Yes. If you're on the live and Audra, just hashtag Audra Upchurch because she's quite an inspirational woman, and she continues to inspire people everywhere. And so, Judie, I wonder if I could ask you to just give us a couple of start with one reading from your book.
Absolutely. I actually the foreword, which I'm proud of, is from my mother's pastor, who is a pastor in the city of Compton. He and I went to Compton High, graduated from Compton High. He was a year or two ahead of me. I did not know him in school. Pastor Ed Robinson. Here's a letter from Pastor Victor Green, who is here in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Let me, if I can find it.
While you look for that, I'm just going to shout out to our new guests who are coming on. Mary, I'm so glad you're here. Leslie, shout out from San Antonio, Texas. I'm glad you are here. Catrice, thanks for hanging in there with us. And just shout out to Judie.
Sharon.
Judie from Compton. Well, she grew up in Compton, and today she's sharing from her newly released book, Heart to Heart. And we have men who've written letters to young girls, teen girls. And I think that is just so amazing.
Okay. Actually, let me start off with the letter that my husband, Carl Judie, wrote.
Okay.
It says, Dear precious daughter, and some of the men wrote the letters to their daughters, and some wrote letters to the daughters that they wished they had. But I remember when I first found out that I was going to be a father, I was nervous but excited. I was nervous because I had no idea what to expect. I was excited because I knew that your birth would change my life for the better. The moment you were born, I wanted to protect you from everything. And I jokingly told myself that I wouldn't allow you to date until you were 30 because I didn't want you to grow up and not need me. I eventually realized that you'll always need me. You need me to support your dreams. You need me to inspire you to be your best. You need me to love you unconditionally. You need me to always be there for you. And I realize that I need you. I am proud of the young lady that you have become. And I encourage you to give yourself permission to spread your wings and soar as high as you can. Don't place any limitations on yourself because I never will. I believe in you and I know there is greatness inside of you waiting to be awakened. Dream big, walk confidently, believe in yourself. Life is a beautiful gift, so handle it prayerfully. I love you.
Wow, that's a beautifully written letter. And how old is your daughter?
Actually, my husband and I have 5 adult children together. 30. She's in her 30s now.
Wow.
Yes.
That is beautiful. And it applies to girls any age.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes young women, regardless of the age, need that affirmation from a man that it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. It doesn't matter how you're dressed. As a matter of fact, one of the men addressed the letter saying, don't let a man be attracted to how you're dressed. Don't let that be the defining factor of what he knows about you. Let him get to know your mind. Let him fall in love with the knowledge that you have, and then vice versa. So the men really took some time, some things that they remembered from their own teenage years, the things that they looked at, the things that appealed to them, the things that did not appeal to them. And those are the things that they took and put in the pages of the book. And I think, like I said, it's going to inspire young girls to live in who they are and be powerful in who they are without being afraid or ashamed of where they've come from or even where they are right now, and just be inspired to do better.
I think that is so amazing because whether the young girl has a father in her life or not, to be able to have this forum by which their lives can be enriched by having a male speak into your life, I think that is just so powerful.
Yes.
And, we talk about how boys need their dads and girls need their dads, but everybody needs their parents, whether it's a male or female, because dads and men give you something that females can't give you.
That is so true. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
and how much so to build that self-confidence in a
Yes,
young lady by having, you know, a male role model speak into their life.
absolutely. You
And
know,
you said something that was really, really good. You said it doesn't matter what age, because I remember when I got my father back into my life, I was well into my 30s, probably almost 40.
wow,
And it was amazing. I still melted every time he said something really positive to me.
I
And
love
I
it.
was married and had my own children, but there is
Wow.
just something so precious about a father validating you that it
Yes.
makes you feel like you can fly.
Yes, it does, and it's interesting. And like you said, no matter what age, I even have volunteers that attend the Daddy's Girl Empowerment Summit. They come as volunteers, friends my age group, and many of them have said they get more out of listening in on the workshops because a lot of them, even in their 40s and 50s, still have some unresolved father issues that listening in on the seminars has helped them tremendously. And I think a lot of times with when a father is absent for any amount of time, I think sometimes the shame and the guilt that that father may feel prevents him from fully reinserting himself back into either a girl or a boy's life. And I think for the men that may hear this, I want to encourage them. Your children are waiting, regardless of what age they are. They're waiting and wanting you to come back. And a lot of times, girls and young girls and young men put up defense mechanisms, become anger, become hardened, and try to tell others, "I don't need him in my life. I don't want him in my life." But deep down inside, there's a little boy or a little girl wanting to have that parent to validate them.
That
And
is so true. There's, if you are listening or if you are on the replay, just hashtag your children are waiting. Please hashtag that because that is so important. And I'm a part of this anthology that's coming up. It's called Unchain My Legacy. And think about how many legacies can be unchained by fathers just validating and speaking into the lives of their children
absolutely.
regardless of what age they
Absolutely.
are.
Absolutely.
So
I
yes,
was
fathers, we're waiting. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I was at a friend's production. She did a production a few weeks ago here in Los Angeles, and there was a woman sitting in the audience. And if I'm not mistaken, the woman told me she was now in her 60s, and she said she had waited and waited, and then when she found out where her father was, it was actually too late. You know, he was on his deathbed, and but she missed out on so many years. And here she was in her 60s, and had just waited and wanted just not even to ask where he had been, not wanting to ask how come he hadn't been in her life, but just wanting that connection to be able to put her arms around him. And sometimes no words even need to be spoken. Just that connection sometimes is all anybody wants. The human touch, I think, is so healing.
Right.
And so, like I said, the defense mechanisms are just that. They're a way to protect your heart. They're a way to protect your feelings and your emotions. And sometimes we put up those walls in order for no one to hurt us. But children are waiting.
They are waiting. Children are waiting. Hashtag children are waiting. And we talked the other day about, you know, the feeling of belonging, and that when
Yes,
you don't feel that, you go in search of it,
right.
whether
Absolutely.
it's because of the loss of a mom or a dad. You know, you go in search of those feelings because we're naturally created with that space in us
Yes, indeed.
for the feeling, to be able to trust or to be trusted or to feel like you belong to somebody.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, can you bless us with another letter?
absolutely.
And while you find it, I'm just going to shout out to our guests who are here. Shamika coming in from Jamaica. Welcome, welcome. Nick is here. And Nick says, I truly love this. Shania says, very true. And Candace Lee is here, and she says, hello, Sharon, from Candace Lee, and she is watching you. Yes.
If that's the Candace Lee I'm thinking about, she's a young girl that grew up, the church that I attended, she was a child there.
Wow. That's awesome. We have Allison coming in from Minnesota, and she did the hashtag children are waiting.
Yes.
We need our fathers, no matter how old we are. We need our fathers. Tanya Campbell, welcome to the live. And now Sharon is going to read us another letter.
Okay, and this one is actually from my husband's nephew in Lubbock, Texas, Curtis Marshall. It says, dear daughter, I know that you are hurting. At times you feel alone, confused, and like you have no one to turn to. Look up. There is light coming over the horizon. The light that shines throughout all darkness is God. God's light is rising in every moment of your life, and he is saying, daughter, come to me. Come into the light. It is there, and only there you will be set free. You are trapped in a sea of emotions, and God wants to bring you out. I want you to know that God is your source. When you think of electronics, it has to be connected to some kind of source, whether batteries or a power outlet, in order to work. In the same way, God is our source. So we have to be connected in order to have power and function properly. When you are connected to God, his light begins to shine through you. He is waiting at the door and desperately wants to spend time with you. But it's up to you to open the door. Will you open the door and let him in your heart? When God enters your heart, he will heal every wound, every hurt, and every disappointment. Every empty place will be filled. Out of your heart will flow joy, love, and peace. Make this your prayer. Father, forgive me for not completely trusting in you. I totally surrender my life to you. Empower me and let me be the light that comes shining through darkness. Amen. You are loved and you are worth more than you could ever imagine.
Wow. That just blessed me. Oh, wow. I really appreciated that letter.
Amen.
That is so good.
Thank you.
So, Minister Emerson says this is so needed in our community, and you're getting lots of hearts and lots of love here from our audience, because this is so powerful. Would you tell us again about your book? Show us the cover of your book and let us know where we can find your book. And after the live, I'll drop a link down in our comments so our viewers can see it.
Okay, and thank you, Minister Emerson. He actually contributed a letter. He has 2 daughters and a son, and he is actively involved in his children's life. He and his wife both are ministers at my church in Los Angeles, New Mount Calvary Baptist Church. And he has just an inspiration. He's an inspiration as well to the teens. He's one of the teen Sunday school teachers.
Wonderful.
The book is Heart to Heart, Encouragement, Advice, and Inspiration for Teen Girls. It is available on Amazon at amazon.com/D as in door, P as in Paul, /06929329884. Again, and if you in the search bar for Amazon, if you put in Heart to Heart, you should see this cover. And I don't know if your viewers can see this, but it is a heart with a tiara or a crown on it.
That's beautiful.
Remind the girls that they are a jewel in God's crown. And like I said, the letters were written from the heart, from the hearts of men who care about the future of our young girls.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And again, I will drop the link to Amazon in our comment bar. And can you do us a favor and read us one of Minister Emerson's letter?
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna shout out again to our guests who are here. Thank you for joining us. And Candace says, what's the best way to foster a relationship with a child and her absentee father? So we can answer that after you read that letter. Candace, that's a very good question. And if you have any other questions for our guest, Sharon Y. Judie, who's author of Heart to Heart, drop them in the comments and we'll work on getting those answered for you.
All righty. Minister Emerson, Dominic Emerson on Facebook is Nick Emerson. On page 79, he says his letter is titled "I Knew." I knew that I loved you from the first time I laid eyes on you. I knew that I had to learn how to do your hair. I knew that I had to protect you. I knew that one day I had to let you paint my nails, which my dad did as well. My dad allowed me to color his fingernails. The things that parents go through in order for their children to thrive. I knew that I would have to teach you how to ride a bike. I knew that I would have to teach you how to get up when you failed. I knew that I would have to walk you to school and let go. I knew that one day I would have to walk you down the aisle. I knew that I would have to show you the type of man that you should marry, and that's real important. I knew that one day you would grow up. Most important of all, I knew that I had a daughter to call my own, and I couldn't ask for anything more.
Wow. Minister Emerson, that was a powerful, powerful letter to your daughters. I appreciate that. And I did drop the link to your book on Amazon. I dropped it in the comments. So let's answer this question for Candace. She said, what is the best way to foster a relationship with my child and her absentee father?
I would actually say, Candace, I'm glad you asked that question. I would actually say, don't hinder the relationship. A lot of times, young men want to be a part of their children's lives, but sometimes young ladies insert themselves in the relationship. Well, I don't want my daughter to be around him if he's around another woman, and all this other things that we allow to interfere with them having a healthy relationship. We cannot, as I'm going to put myself in here, as women, we can't always control who men are going to spend time with. And although ideally it is great for a man to be able to spend time with the child by himself, there are times when there's going to be another young woman who is going to be a part of that man's life, and you will have to trust him enough to leave your child with him. Sometimes it's easier to argue and to be combative and to be confrontive than it is to foster a relationship of peace, because there's so many things that we allow ourselves to want. But sometimes we have to step back and allow God to do what he's going to do in the relationship. A lot of times we appoint ourselves as judge and jury, and we want to dictate how the relationship goes. And sometimes we have to allow those men to make those mistakes, allow them to do whatever in order to foster a relationship. But a lot of times we can't dictate what it is. And I know I'll probably get some backlash for that. Well, I'm his mother, or I'm him, the baby's mother. Well, he's the father that you selected for that child. That child needs both parents. And sometimes we just have to step back, take our hands off of it, pray about it, and not want so much of the control that we as mothers a lot of times want to have. And we make it very clear, well, that's my child. That's his child too. So.
Right. I think you made some really, really good points. And the thing about it is, now that there's conflict, a lot of times we forget that's the father you chose for your child.
Right.
Right. In most cases.
And yes. And the other thing is, one of the things I live by is, do you want to be right, or do you want to have a relationship? And
I love that.
Yeah. And
all right. So drop that in the comments if you're listening. Do you want to be right, or do you want to have a relationship? Yeah. And Catrice said, keep the child out of the conflict between the parents.
Absolutely. And sometimes we think that they don't hear the conversations. You may be in your room, blasting this father and giving him the what to and what for. And children sense tension. And the type of attitude that you have toward the father will eventually trickle over it one of the things that I have always said, you never have to say anything negative about, not necessarily even a parent, but about anybody. Allow people to form their own opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Allow people to form their own relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We are in control. We have the hard enough time trying to control ourselves and our own
Absolutely.
emotions. And
Absolutely.
trying to control another person doesn't ever end well for anybody. And so let the child and the father form their own relationship. It may be a hit or miss. Sometimes fathers, when they aren't sure of what kind of relationship they want, they may dip in and dip out. And sometimes we want to protect our children. Well, I'm not going to allow him to just come in whenever he wants. The only person that's going to hurt in that is your child. And you may, like I said, you may think that you're protecting the child by not allowing him to be a part of the in and out, but allow him to have something with the father, and they'll eventually make their own opinions. And like you said, your father came back in your life at a much later age. I don't know the circumstances for that, but the fact that he was able to come back, the door was open, so he knew that it was okay to come back. And so the only person that hurts when the parents are separated, the children are the only ones who hurt. So
that is so true. As much as the adults in the situation may feel like you're going through, hurt and betrayal or whatever the circumstances might be, the bottom line is how you communicate with each other directly impacts
absolutely.
the well-being of that child. And you're also showing that child how to navigate healthy relationships.
Absolutely.
And so, like Patrice says, you don't have to be negative about either parent or anybody.
Yes.
And so, I would say to parents too, find your peer group to talk to outside of the presence of your children. Work that out with them. Don't bring the children in on that.
Absolutely. And then with you being a marriage and family counselor, sometimes seeking that outside help is necessary for you to be successful in communication and communicating with the other parent. And it again, I think a lot differently now as an older person than I did as a younger person. And the way you're looking at things now in your 20s and 30s, you won't look at them that way. And when you get into your 40s or even into your 50s, you do seek peace at any cost. And sometimes it's a matter of just zipping your lip, sitting down, and the Bible says that God would have that we would live peaceably with all men. And a lot of times we tend to forget that. We want so much to exercise our freedom of speech. And to me, there's so much liberation in just studying to be quiet and just allowing God to do what he's going to do, allowing him to be God. That's a lesson I had to learn.
That is so true. And you've shared so much wisdom with us today. And I so appreciate it. And I'm just going to check in with our audience and say, hey, you guys, thank you for hanging in there with us. Nick says you are speaking the truth, and God bless you for that. Mm-hmm. And Allison says, yes, allow your children the opportunity to learn, to develop. Our children will eventually see what is right or wrong. Model to them the healthy way. And she said, you are so right on. Catrice said, yes, a therapist can provide a safe space for communication to happen. And it will happen in a safe space. And we have to know when we have those limitation in our skills. Absolutely. So that we can reach outside of ourselves and find some help. Yes. Because the bottom line is the well-being and the health and wellness of the children.
Absolutely. And that third person, that the counselor, whether it's a counselor or whether it's your pastor, a lot of churches do have counseling centers now, and a lot of the prices may be based on a sliding fee scale. Your ability to pay, even going into parenting classes. Sometimes it's a matter of you getting yourself together. in order to be a whole person for your child. And that's one of the things that I had to learn. Like I said, as a teen mother, one of the things that I had to learn. I really grew up, with my daughter, and there were a lot of things that I did not know, a lot of mistakes that I did make, and I had to learn from those mistakes. I fortunately, as you mentioned, I had not just my parents who were very instrumental and very helpful in my life, but also her grandparents on the other side were very influential. Even to this day, her grandmother's in her 80s. And unfortunately, my daughter's father died unexpectedly when she was 10, and which put a different dynamic on everything. But still, the fact that we weren't living in the same home together, her father and I, again, created decisions for her that weren't. She probably would have made different decisions if her father had been in the home as well. And
Right.
so the book, I think, for me, is a culmination of just the different experiences that I have. As a matter of fact, that I've had and that I've experienced myself. I start off with a portion of my story about when my mom and dad had divorced, and the changes that I went through with the new normal, which was not having my father in the home. And so it's funny that I would compile a book of letters, because one of the things that I did when my mom and dad first divorced, I would write letters to my father, and I never mailed them, but it was liberating for me to be able to put my feelings down on paper. And as a child, you don't understand the differences that adults have, and a lot of times you internalize them. Well, if I had done things differently, maybe my dad would have stayed. And Candace, your child may question that at some point. What did I do to make my dad not want to be around? There's a lot of adults even now that have internalized that. What did I do to make my dad not want to be around me? When you've been able to X out every other reason why, you kind of internalize and say, well, he didn't want to be around, maybe because of something I did, or because he didn't love me. And so parents, we have the obligation to make sure that our children are raised healthy and happy, and that they know that it's nothing that they did. Adults make their own decisions, and it doesn't have anything to do with the children.
That is such a critical message to send to our children, because even in therapy, when I see children of divorce parents, divorced households, a lot of the children blame themselves, and you find the children going through, depression and low self-esteem and things like that, because they feel rejected, or they feel like they're the cause of the breakup.
Absolutely.
And so to liberate our children from those things is so, so important.
Yes.
And how wonderful that you had the tool of journaling through letters. That is a critical strategy to use.
And we have to be open to, thank you for that. And we have to be open to listening to what the children are saying. A lot of times children don't know how to voice their disappointments. And so you'll start sometimes seeing them act out and do some things that it's like, I don't know where this child got this from.
Right.
But a lot of times it's because they don't know how to communicate how they're feeling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's so true. And it's so right on, because when children come, when families come to therapy, that's one of the first questions that I ask. You'll have a mom who will say, well, they were a straight A student and they followed directions, and now all of a sudden, well, it's not so all of a sudden. And I'm like, okay, what are some of the changes that has happened in the household?
Yes, that's it.
It directly impacts them and their self-esteem, because they internalize that, because they don't have the language, the way to express. They create their own narrative, and we have to be there to foster, help them find a different narrative.
I love that. And I'm going to do what you just did a little while ago. Hashtag change the narrative.
Hashtag change the narrative. That's right, you
And
all.
we,
Hashtag change the narrative. And we can do that. We have the power to do that. And that's what those men who helped to author that book, that's what they are doing. They're changing the narrative for our girls.
absolutely. And Laura,
Yes.
I'm looking at what Allison wrote. She said they have trouble with sharing that inner dialogue, and that the inner dialogue is that narrative, what they're telling themselves. And so when we start giving them positive reinforcement and giving them different tools to again change the narrative. I mean, even as adults, sometimes we have to change the narrative. Things that we're saying to ourselves or what we're allowing the enemy to place in our minds, you know, about we're not good enough, we're not enough, we're not pretty enough, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too thin, you're too this. And all of these things wreak havoc on a teen girl's her innermost thoughts, because she's already struggling with I'm not necessarily, maybe struggling with I'm not good enough, my dad's not here, or the reason that he's not here is because of, and they can fill in the XYZ. But when we teach them to change the narrative by giving them something positive and letting them know that they are loved, that they are valuable, that they are worthy, that's when the narrative starts changing. And it's up to us to help them change the narrative.
That is so true. That is so true. Again, everybody, welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. Trina, thank you for joining us. And we have Paulette coming in from the Bahamas. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a really informative dialogue with Miss Sharon Judie, who is the author and teen coach. Sharon, we're going to wrap up today, but if you could just tell the parents out there who are listening, or the teen girls who are, or guys, and we have male parents, we have female parents who are listening to us, if you can leave them with two things, two important things that you've gathered over the years from your summit or from writing this book, what would that be?
I think I would sum it up to say, I mentioned it earlier, that it doesn't matter how life begins for you. You have the power, the right, and the authority to write a better ending. And secondly, I would probably say that either you can make excuses, or you can make changes.
Wow. I love that. Hashtag make excuses or make changes. I love that. I absolutely love that, because at some point we have to realize that we do have personal power that we can execute to either make excuses or make changes.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you again. Trina, I'm glad you caught it too. Everybody, thank you so much. Catrice, thanks for hanging in there with us. Allison, it's so great to see you. And everybody who's here with us on Teen Talk Live, please remember to share this. This is good stuff. And go to Amazon, click on the link in the comments, and get Sharon's book. I know that I'm going to get it, because I think it's very, very important, this list of letters to young girls, and it's so much appreciated. And Allison, say hello to your family for me. I miss you guys. Sharon, do you want to close us out with one more letter?
Absolutely. This is actually from one of the deacons at my church here in the Riverside area. The title is Your Future, Your Bright Future. There comes a time in life when we can all use a word of encouragement. To everything there is a season and a time and a purpose under this heaven. Listen to your heart and love yourself continually. I have watched you grow up and become a beautiful young lady that you are today. Become the beautiful young lady that you are today. You are ready to contribute to society, making our world a better place to live. Love yourself and love life with all your heart, your mind, and soul. Never forget who you are as you go through life's journeys. Be at peace with yourself and where you are every moment of your life. Keep your heart pure and enjoy your own company. Enjoy your own company. That right there is rich. Know that you are loved and are very capable to accomplish great things. Focus your attention on all that is good. Strive to achieve that which is better. Embrace every challenge, knowing that from within lies the strength that will enable you to overcome any obstacle. Don't be afraid to take chances or make mistakes from time to time. Remember that to know success is also to know and understand failure. Always remember that your worth and value are not defined by the standards by which the world establishes, but that your worth and value are based upon those things which are ordained by your creator. Learn the secrets of contentment and embrace the surprises that life often brings your way. For not every rock in our pathway is there to trip you up, but may be the stepping stone toward a fulfilling life and achievement of your lifelong dreams and realities. Make your plans for your future known to those who care about you and love you. Know where you're going. Knowing where you are going is only part of the plan of your life. Knowing where you have been and where you are at this very moment is important too. Should you get a little lost along the way, don't worry because there are people who love and will find you. All that being said, the final thing I can hope that brings you encouragement is that you are worthy, beautiful, talented, and loved. Always be yourself in all things and in all matters. It is in these things that you will find purpose, meaning, fulfillment, and joy. And most of all, always remember that there is one who loves you daily and continually. John Wallace, like I said, is a deacon from my former church, and that is a letter I'd like to leave you with.
Wow. I could listen to you read for the rest of the day, so I'm going to have to buy that book. And that is so powerful. Thank you for sharing your gift with us today, Sharon. I'm so glad you were here. Thank you all listeners for joining Teen Talk Live, where we transform the lives and minds of teens and those who love them. This has been your host, Ann Dillard, and feel free to join us on the next broadcast. And we are going to drop Sharon's email address in the comment. We're going to drop information about her conference. And we are also going to we have dropped the link to her book, because this is good stuff and we need it. Thank you, Sharon. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone.